And welcome back again to the next episode of the McKinney Podcast. I am Fred Mahusay, joined by James Jenkins. However, James and I both have our own businesses. And as you know, many times business is what keeps the business going, right? And keeps the podcast going. And so James had some clients that this is the only time that they could meet. So he had to step out. But that does not take away anything from this particular episode because today's guest is someone who is larger than life. Everyone who knows him will say the same exact thing. So without further ado, let's jump in and let's welcome to the McKinney Podcast, Ramil Paredes.
Well, appreciate it. Thank you very much, Fred.
And I love that. Ramil, he's a man of many hats, literally. Correct. Literally of many hats, and not the least of which is his own show that he's been. I mean, how long have you had the Hat Show now?
Actually, this will be season 3.
Season 3, right? And we're gonna jump into that along with all the things. But Ramil, to start things off, we always like to ask our guests when your feet first touched the earth. Where was it?
That was in the Philippines. I was born in the Philippines at Quezon City, which is the capital is Manila, and it's kind of like Dallas, Fort Worth, or the city. Quezon City is just right outside of Manila.
Yeah, how about that? And then how long before so what brought you from the islands to the States?
So we immigrated here. My grandfather was actually a politician in the Philippines. He was a councilman for Quezon City. And then when he moved out here, he became consul general for the Philippines. My great-grandfather was actually the first attorney general. So it's a pretty big political family. They go back and forth to the U.S. And then when they retired, they actually petitioned the family to come over. So I would say, and again, it's a big Filipino family. I believe we have 16 aunts and uncles. Oh, I have 16 aunts and uncles. Half stay there and half are over here.
Mm-hmm. And so when you came over, where did you land?
I landed in the Los Angeles area.
California. Pretty obvious. Right. And so how old were you at that point?
I was 12 years old.
12 years old. Okay. So, and this was what?
This is 1990. So by showing my age, people start calculating, oh, okay.
All right. So 1990.
So I'll be 48 by September.
How about that?
This month.
Yeah,
yes.
There you go. Yeah. And so, what was that transition like? Because, that for those of you who don't know, I'm also Filipino, but I'm like, American Filipino. Ramil is Filipino, all right? Holds the language, eats all the foods.
Not balut.
Not balut.
Yes.
Okay, so, a little trivia there, it's a duck delicacy. And we'll just leave it at that.
Correct.
So if you know what balut is, that's just a hard line, that's kind of how I separate, real Filipinos from, like Freddie Boy Filipinos.
Right.
That's right.
And you've probably seen that on some of the scary shows. I forgot the fear factors where you got to eat the balut.
That's right. So everyone thinks that Filipinos are friendly and in the medical field and all those things, but we have two people who are not in the medical field and do not enjoy that delicacy, period. So, coming to the United States, what would you say was what do you remember as the greatest shock value when you came and started living in the United States versus living in the Philippines?
The biggest shock value being in a political family is that when we were in the Philippines, we attended private school. And then with that said, we did have a driver that took us from our home to school. And we had a nanny take care of everything else, cooks and everything. And as I mentioned, it's a pretty big family. So we lived in a fairly big home, again, being a political family. So everyone's just gathered over there. That once we got here, we pretty much have to do everything on our own. So it's kind of like a wake-up call to, toughen up. You got to do your own chores, which is, for me, I've been doing, as far as assisting, even at the Philippines, I'm assisting in cooking, taking out chores and everything else. So transition-wise, it wasn't as bad as, not having a driver or not having a a nanny to watch over you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so you land here, you're 12 years old. That means you're what? That's seventh grade, eighth grade, somewhere in there?
Correct. It'll be middle school in Los Angeles. And this is just not, if you guys are familiar with the Los Angeles area, I went to Thomas Starr King Junior High School, which is in the Hollywood area. When we arrived there, same thing, culture shock in regards to access to crimes around the area. And as far as being exposed to weapon, actually, growing up, I saw that in the locker room. I was like, whoa, what's going on over here? So that's another thing also. But
weapons like firearm type weapons.
Correct.
Because I know growing up in the Philippines, like I grew up in, my lineage is Baltimore, Maryland, Milledgeville, Georgia, and Arcadia, Florida. But, my parents, they emigrated here, but, I was familiar with weapons because there was always some home-fashioned machete.
No, this one was in the locker room. That's one of my first shock was that someone had a pistol in the locker room in the middle school. And then besides that, just learning the sports, I did play a little bit of football, but I was fairly good in basketball.
Okay. And so LA.
Correct. As far as basketball itself, being fairly tall, lanky, skinny kid, I would say I was already 5'6" when I was in middle school. And with that, I actually, with the team on a recreational part, I played center for the Phil American Youth League. But on my school team, I'm actually a guard. On my recreational team, I'm actually a center. So big difference in height-wise, trying to learn both skills.
Yeah, but so you're in middle school and you're already 5'6"?
Correct.
That's freakishly tall for Filipino.
Correct. That's why most of the time when even my wife, when she first met me, she said, "Are you mixed?" I said, "No." And by then I'm already 5'11".
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm pretty much a Filipino. He goes, "You're fairly tall for a Filipino." And she grew up in the South Bay area, which is South Bay of Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
Right next to it is the city of Carson. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of Filipinos in Carson. Pretty much throughout Los Angeles, there's a lot of Filipinos, and she's not used to tall Filipinos.
Yes. I think all of coastal California, there's a lot of Filipinos, but especially close to where the military bases are.
Correct.
Oh, man. So, so if you were, 12? You said in 1990?
Yep.
So another 6 years. So that was 96 when you graduated high school then? 96, 97?
95. Actually, I was fairly young, yeah.
Oh, man. So that's right, because you have a late birthday. That's what it is. Okay. All right. So you graduate high school. What's your next move?
After that, graduated high school. I didn't get my scholarship as I wanted. I was in track. I was in basketball. I did get some offers for track. And unfortunately, during my junior year, I got injured for track. So I lost some of those scholarship. And one of the scholarship was to Villanova. In 1995, not knowing Villanova, I wanted to go to Notre Dame or UCLA. So I did get a few visits. One of the offers, I think, was Texas, Colorado. So big-time schools, but Villanova itself, come to find out, was a pretty good track school back then. I think they had the most championship. So during that time, senior year, I didn't get any other offers. So after that, I decided to join the Marine Corps.
Okay. So you were going to go
at 17.
You were going to go on a track scholarship, but what were you intending to study? Which field of medicine?
For me, actually, if I remember, I'm more interested in marketing and business major. Even after the military, when I studied, I was taking some business majors.
But you decided to go to the Marine Corps.
Correct.
All right. So that means that you went to basic
in San Diego.
Yeah. So you're the Hollywood Marines.
Correct.
That's right. That's what my brother says, So this is great. I love talking to you because, there's so many things. But my brother served in the Marines. And when he came out of basic, he was, of course, we lived in Florida. So he was over there at Lejeune. And when he came out of basic and had the standard Marine Corps flat top, high and tight, white walls and runway type thing, I remember I made fun of him, and I was like, "Look at your hair," and he was just like, "Yeah, you try it one day," and I was just like, "Yeah, I think I will." That was 1995. Never went back.
Wow.
And so it's one of those things that just kind of sticks with me. But I remember him sharing with me that depending on where you lived in the country, you went either to the East Coast or to the West Coast, and Hollywood Marines is what he said.
Correct. And then we always refer to him, San Fleece, as probably what he talked about as far as, being in South Carolina where the boot camp is.
Yep. Yeah. He didn't have any. He didn't have anything, remarkable to say about being
San Fleece.
That's right.
Yes. I know you can't. You have to hold your attention, even though they're biting you. You pretty much got to have your bearing that you cannot smack your face or snap at any flies that's flying around you.
No swatting, no scratching, no any of those things. Or there was the Sarge,
your drill instructor is pretty much
your DI was gonna
either slap that fly towards you or pretty much have you push for moving in formation.
Okay, so talking about the Marines, there are a couple movies that come to mind, primarily Platoon, Full Metal Jacket, things like that. Is that an accurate description of what happens in basic?
As far as the screaming part of it, it is.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the hardship part of it, I mean, serving in the Marines versus other branches, I always tell people, people always tell me, "Oh, it's the hardest boot camp to go through." You know what? I did not go to other boot camps, so I cannot compare. All I know is that for us, we went to 13 weeks of boot camp. And our boot camp is boot camp, not school, versus other services. They're actually at boot camp while they're at school. Because we go from there, then their school of infantry, then we go to our school. That's why most Marines are pretty much a rifleman first, as far as going back to battle. And then besides that, the other part of it is the job that you're doing. But as far as going back to the movies, I would say, that I would probably say 70% of that's pretty accurate in regards to the stuff that you have to do at boot camp. Nowadays, I've heard, and again, I went in 1995. Nowadays, I heard that there's stress cards that they can use, which we didn't have that. And nowadays, people could use their phone, which is, it's interesting because then you have access to the outside world, where when we were in boot camp, we didn't have access to the outside world. You're pretty much geared to train for the Marine Corps, learn the knowledge of the Marine Corps, and that's it. And then they shape you to be a Marine, and then when you get out there, then you're back to the real world.
Yeah, I remember when my brother went off a couple of weeks after he was there, a package came in, and it contained every bit of clothing that he had on him except for his running shoes.
Yeah.
Everything else all came back. And I was like, I remember opening up and go, "What's this?" Like, is he all right?
That's why, the less, the better. If I recall, same thing, my recruiter, don't bring much because we'll supply everything else. Just bring your clothes, don't bring a bag because everything else is going to go back. The same thing. I think I only had my jeans, my shirt, and then that's it.
Then you're in.
Correct.
Okay, so when you're in the Marines, what was your billet, your duty? What was your assignment?
My assignment. So once I got out of the boot camp, my job was motor transport. So I went to school in North Carolina, in Jacksonville, North Carolina, right by Camp Lejeune. And then from there, once I graduated my school, I was stationed in 29 Palms with 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines.
Okay. And then did you ever deploy?
I did, as far as deployment. So I was in 1995, 1997. Usually our unit deployment is into Okinawa for the West Coast side. Or even on the East Coast side, they'll deploy to Okinawa. From Okinawa, we go pretty much throughout the Southwest or Southeast Asia, and including Australia and or Japan. We also go to Thailand. So depending on where you united or where your squad is, they'll go to other places. For me, pretty much stayed mostly in Japan area, from Okinawa to mainland Japan.
Okay. And then what would you say is the most challenging aspect of being active duty Marine?
Being active duty Marine, and again, this is back then, not having access to, most of the time people are actually grabbing the payphone right away to talk to family or their girlfriends. Being stationed in 29 Palms out in the desert, it's far from Los Angeles. If you don't have a vehicle, you can go out and as a young Lance Corporal, as far as their pay, does not equate to being able to afford the car. Mm-hmm. So most of the time, that's pretty much it. It's as far as missing home, but you kind of adjust quickly. As to myself, actually, so while I was in Okinawa, I was picked to become to go through squad leader course. And since I'm in a infantry unit, it's pretty selective as far as who goes to the squad leader course. So out of my company of about 300 people, I was picked to go to squad leader course, and then the other companies select their squad leaders to go that. So once I believe we were about 40 to 30, and then the graduating, I think we were about 28 or 29. I know we have a few people drop off just because of injuries and not being able to learn what to do. So after graduating, that's what I did. Is I'm in charge of a squad. Besides that, while still in Okinawa, also I was attending a Sunday Mass. One of the few Marines that just go Sunday Mass. And the chaplain over there decides, hey, I see you here all the time. Why don't you become a Catholic lay reader? It's like, sure, what does that do? Well, your chaplain is actually a Protestant, and he needs someone to give Sunday services when you guys are on the field. So we'll train you for that. So from there, I forgot how long the training was. But when I got back, I got a certificate from the Navy that actually I could perform Catholic services. So that was interesting too. Yeah. As I tell people, not a lot of people know that, again, I was a Catholic, I would say, ordained minister. There you go. I was a Catholic ordained minister to a point that when I go in the field, and this is on Sundays, I ended up staying on the base instead of going out back to LA. I ended up staying on the base and providing services for a unit, for Catholic services, and not just for a unit. That's anyone that's out in the field that needs Catholic services, going out there with the chaplain. The chaplain is a Protestant, so he's handling the Protestant. And as far as Catholic, I'm doing the performance of the Catholic priest.
Wow.
So that was it. Yeah, that was interesting.
So should we call you Father Ramil?
Yeah. So those are correct. When you say the hat show, even in the Marine Corps as being a motor transport operator, a squad leader, and then on top of that, I'm also the priest for the Catholic services.
Wow, yeah. How about that? So you went ahead and mentioned it, the hat show. So one of the many things that Ramil does is he has a podcast, and let's just say that he was all in, and he knew the risks, but he went for it. So tell us about the hat show.
Sure. Actually, so the hat show kind of came about working with the late, I forgot his name right now. He passed away 3 years ago. The
podcast guy?
Yeah.
Oh, it was Frito.
Yeah. So
Mark Friedman.
So you will be able to edit that. So with Mark Friedman, we always talk about my game of poker. So I played a lot of poker. And what I started doing is I started showing my poker game and my gambling on TikTok. And I blew up. Actually, I had 40,000 followers. People were watching my live feed and everything else. But after that, TikTok started to cut down on gambling. And everyone says, hey, we'll watch whatever other platforms that you have. So I was looking at Facebook. I was looking at YouTube. And I came out, how about I do a show? And with that, I'm trying to, name the show. On TikTok, I'm Tito Okane. It's Tito means uncle in the Philippines. Okane is money. So it's Uncle Money for TikTok. And I said, no, I don't want to use that. So we were at one point, I'm here in Texas now. I'm wearing my Marine Corps hat in the morning for the chamber. So I represent the Marine Corps League here in Collin County. So I'll go to all the chamber events and represent the Marines. And then also I was president of the Plano East Rotary Club, and I'm wearing my Rotary Club. And someone had seen me twice in that day and says, you sure wear a lot of hats. And that's where pretty much the show came about, is that all the hats that I wear in the community. Mm-hmm. And so with that, we kind of put it together. Frito said, you know what, I'll produce it, done the show. And he's worked with ESPN. Let's start the show. And that's where, and again, we're in season 3 now. So that was 2 years ago. But when I first kicked off the show, I talked about what I do for the Marine Corps here in Collin County, what I do for Rotary, for the Plano East. And the other one is I used to work in solar industry. And so I was promoting solar. And besides that, I was talking about poker and the slot machines as far as my theory on the slot machines. So it kind of picked up. We as far as when I say we, I built a page for it on Facebook, and it kind of blew up to a point that I have on my personal page at 25,000 followers. And on my Hat Show page, I have close to 15,000 followers. And on my TikTok stayed at 40,000 followers. But what's great is my viewership, to a point that some of my views are getting to 10 million, 1 million to 10 million. And my reach at one point was at 25 million. I'm like, wow. I was like, who are all these people, as far as watching my show or watching what I talk about. And one of the things I talk about at the show when we talk about the gambling is I tell people to walk away. Mm-hmm. Gambling is an addictive game. And for me, I've learned to pretty much, once I win, I walk away. That's going to be my angle. Mm-hmm. I don't want people to just keep playing, because I could see the grief from people's face once they lose their money. And then I want them to enjoy when they play or when they gamble. I don't want them to lose money. So that's kind of how I created my angle, to a point that when people see me, they always say, hey, I'm learning to walk away. I'm using some of your strategy, which is just get up and go. And that's it. But to a point that I made, as I'm making some of my notes on my show, okay, yeah, this is what I do. This is what I do. That during season 1, I got invited to Mensa to talk to Mensa conference. And
Mensa is the organization for the elite of the elite when it comes to intelligence.
Correct. Highest IQ. And some of the participants there are CPA, lawyers, CPA. And so when I did my presentation, it kind of, I could see on their, I could see on their faces that this is making sense as far as what I'm presenting. And I tell them that, my data, and this is how I came about on getting my data. I hate losing. And so with that, when I lose, I try to figure out what had happened. Mm-hmm. I'll see what's my strategies, what's my thinking. And from there, I'll take notes. I'll input that into a spreadsheet, to a point that this is 5 years worth of data now. Actually, 2018, so 7 years worth of data now, to a point that for me, I know what's my lucky day, and I also know the time frame where it will probably, the probability that it might pay out, to a point that all I have to do is get up, go there, win, and go home. And that's it. Yeah. So I keep track of a lot of my wins. And so not to collude my data, all I do is a lot of people that follow me, they follow me for, they always know I'm one and done. Once I win, I'm done. I get up and go. And that's what the discipline I'm trying to teach to a lot of these players. And some of them are, have bought into it. because I'll get a message and I'll get a or when they meet me in person, say, hey, I'm learning how to walk away, even though it's $900. Yeah, it makes sense. I come back, I win another $600. I'm having more fun, not losing.
Yeah, no one likes to lose, and I'm glad you said that at the beginning of this, that gambling can be an addiction. And, it's one of those things where, I have friends who, frequent Choctaw and WinStar. And I have friends, who are like, absolutely not. For me, I'm like, I look at things. So if you go to let's say go to a Cowboys game, all right, that's an investment.
Yeah.
That's an investment of your time to park, to eat,
spend,
to actually go to the game. And many times that can reach into the,
thousands of dollars.
That's right. It can, Fred doesn't do that, but I know that it can, because I've seen ticket prices, and I've been to a Cowboys game yet, but I've been to a couple of Rangers games, and even then, it was an investment. And so, I try to tell people that, from my perspective, if you're going in because you just love money and you just want more money, I said that's probably not the reason to go. But if you look at it as, I'm going to budget X amount of money and time, and I'm going to go and enjoy this, and when it's done, because you go to even the movies, and it's an exchange. It's a one-way exchange of money.
Correct.
The money goes out. There is no money coming back unless someone drops their wallet and you keep it, which is is a character issue.
I know, actually. I had a follower came up to me, talked to me about it's kind of like fishing. Fishing is an expensive sport.
It is.
The boats and everything, and same thing. You're just trying to catch a fish, and you catch and release on some sports, but sometimes you're there for hours. Again, it's their hobby of relaxing, but they also said, that's where he kind of put it. He said that gambling is kind of like the same thing. If I could tell you how much I paid for my boat and all my gears and everything else, it adds up. It's thousands of dollars, and he only does it maybe twice, 3 times a month. And he says, I enjoy gambling more now that I've listened to you, because now I'm winning and I'm buying. And same thing, I always tell him, once you win, buy something that you like. And after that, you start all over at zero again. And then for me, I use my winnings on travel. So I've traveled back to the Philippines at the beginning of the year. I've traveled to the Caribbean in the same year, this year. And so far, as I've told people, I've been on vacation since April of this year. I haven't done anything else but just been traveling. But correct, going back to the guy that pretty much just said, it's fishing. And I kind of talked to that about with people that collect cars also. They invest their time and money and showcase their car for just weekend, but they enjoy that. But this person, when they came up, it said, I really enjoy watching you. And once I kind of tied that in as far as how much money that I invest on fishing, and I started winning now on playing this, gambling's more fun. I was like, okay, I appreciate that. And that's it's kind of fun for me when I see a lot of my followers come up and tell me their stories of they won, they put it away, or they won, they bought. Another lady came up to me, calls me actually. So I rarely give my phone out, but most of the time when I met them a couple times, and so, okay, can I text you my jackpot? Sure. So this lady wins $20,000. Calls me and says, my husband's on the way. He's going to come pick me up, and, for security reasons. Oh, okay. Now, what should I do with this money? She's from Oklahoma. I said, okay, you said you have 2 kids, one's in college. Why don't you pay for your kid's truck? So that's what she did. She paid for the truck. And so every time she loses, she just feels like she paid the down payment for the truck. That's it. So those kind of story just kind of keeps me going to a point that I tell people to walk away, use that money for something else.
That's right. Yeah. So, of course, I remember talking to you many years ago about that, just walk away. And I was like, okay. And Elizabeth and I were on vacation. Actually, it was an incentive trip that she won through her company, and we're in the Bahamas. And we took the tour of the Paradise Resort. And of course, there are slot machines down there. And I looked at Elizabeth. I was like, we got $20, right? She was like, yeah, we're on vacation. So, put it in the machine. And, it took from our, I don't know how much we were laying on the line, but at one point, our 20 had become like
$80,
like $250.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
so, 10 times.
Yeah. So, I mean, it went up, and I was like, yes. And then we and in my mind, I'm like, man, if 20 can become 250, it can become 250,000 million, and so we just started playing, but I was watching it go down. And when it got to about
$80,
actually, no, we stopped way before then.
Okay.
Because I wanted to go out feeling like I had rolled the big one. I want to say it was maybe 150, 180, 150, somewhere in there. And I said, we got to stop. I said, because this is tangible profit from 20.
Correct.
So, we cashed out and ran to the cashier, or spat out like a ticket or a card.
Correct.
Or something.
Yeah, you have a ticket.
Yeah, and so we went over there and got our cash. I said, let's get out of here. And so
it is. It's lunch money for you.
Yeah,
it's like
absolutely.
Dinner is paid.
Yes,
I know. One of the advice that I always tell people, they always ask me, it's so hard to walk away. And for me, I like math. I like calculate. As I mentioned, I have a spreadsheet. I calculate everything. So if you put it in a math sense, I always tell people, okay, this is probably my second biggest advice to people, is that calculate your hourly wage, right, times 40. If you win that, you just paid for a 1 week's paid vacation. And for a working person, that makes sense.
Yes.
And every time I tell a player that, and they realize what a 1 week's pay looks like, same thing. I could see that light bulb in their head saying, wow, I never put it in that sense. Then I just paid for my vacation by winning.
Yep.
And so same thing. People tell me that, like I said, what's your value? What's your value for the week? Calculate that. If you make that, then come back next week if you want to play some more. But if not, you just made yourself paid for a 1 week's worth of vacation.
But don't go in and wager 1 week's worth of pay, right?
Correct. And I know one of the same thing. Another one came up to me and said, "Well, I have my own business. I contract." And I said, "Okay, what's a contract worth for you?" And said $3,000 average contract, $3,000. Okay, that's pretty good. Same thing. Pretty much just one less job that you have to do if you win. That again, you still lose. You will lose also. But if you get to that point, walk away. Right? It is an investment when you're. I won't say an investment. It is a gamble when you're at the casino and just trying to win. But yeah, there's a lot of aspect. When I spoke to Mensa, I put together my speaking point to a point that a lot of these people are like, this makes sense. And but at the end of the day, I tell them it's all luck. You're just chancing for luck. That's why, same thing, I publish my loses when I lose, I publish that to my followers. Just let them know I'm always not winning. Most of the time, I'll win, I'll walk away, I'm ahead. But I try not to put that money back in there. When I lose on some days, I'll let you guys know. Sometimes I try to, it looks like it's going to be a lost day, and somehow I win a $12,000 jackpot as well. It's a plus day again today. So that's what, again, I have a certain amount of point that I could play. And if I win the big jackpots, then it kind of helps out throughout the week, pretty much throughout the month. Yep.
But, bottom line, budget. If you think you have a problem with it, you definitely got to get some help, walk away. And, one last on that before we move to, the meat of this is that Elizabeth and I were flying and we had a layover in Las Vegas. And there were the slots, and they're way more colorful and decorated and inviting than ever before. And I saw it and I was like, man, I'm still riding high from the Bahamas win, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I don't even remember anymore. And I remember looking at the odds and all the things, and I'm like, oh man, can't do the math, but this looks great. And so I texted you, and your response was, I wouldn't do it.
Yes, for 10 pools, I was like, no. And again, you same thing. You're just chancing it out, but you always see the big payout, but you never want to lose, right? And so I was like, you know what? You're right there. I'd rather just you have enjoyed that $100 somewhere else than putting it away. And it's like,
Yeah, so I did. I told Elizabeth, before she went off to, I don't know, use the restroom or get food, and she came back and she was like, so what do you think? I was like, Ramil says I shouldn't. And so I was like, okay, so I won't. But we had a 2-hour layover or something. So I'm sitting there and the machines are everywhere and I'm just looking, and those things are designed to draw you in.
Correct.
All the chimes, all the sounds, some of them have a video that's playing, and it's always someone's like, today's your lucky day. You can come on over here, and you're like, blah, blah, blah. And, cars and making it rain everywhere. And I was like, man.
Hence, that's why. So same thing when I go to a casino, because everything is geared for you to stay in there.
Yes.
I wear a headset, I'm focused, and I treat it like business. I'm in, I'm out. Once I make money, and go home. That's it.
And if you don't make any money, go home.
Correct.
Don't keep on rolling. Okay, so your theory on that gambling is walk away. But when it comes to your service here, I've never seen you walk away. As a matter of fact, you're definitely all in. Tell us about what you do, or actually about the Collin County Marine Corps League.
Okay. So the Marine Corps League is made up of veterans, and some active duty Marines can join also. But we do have some reserve Marines that's part of the Collin County Marine Corps League, and it's a service organization. Our main goal is to take care of our Marines. There's a lot of struggle for Marines out there, either financially or mentally, but at the same time, it's a camaraderie of Marines that I've served that are pretty much meeting once a month and just talking about how can we better our Marines out there? How can we help our Marines out there? And how can we fundraise? So most of the fundraisings that we do, actually, we give back to our Marines, to our Navy corpsmen, to our Navy chaplains, and that's our mission. It's everyone is a volunteered, non-paid staff. And for me, pretty much since, going back to the gambling, so once I win, I volunteer my time. And that's where, with the Marine Corps League, I volunteer a lot of my time there, representing the Marines in the chamber. You guys been in the chamber?
Mm-hmm.
You got to wake up at least 6:30 in the morning to be there at 7:15 to 7:30, and you guys do it pretty much almost every day of the week. You guys are in 2 to 3 chambers? Is that correct?
Two,
at least 2. So
yes.
You've cut down.
Yes,
yeah. I used to be in 4 chambers.
Yes.
So I go same, right? You'll go Tuesday in Allen, Wednesday at McKinney, Thursday in Frisco, and then Friday at Plano.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that, I would say, for a year, and it was exhausting.
Yes.
Because you have to commit to be there at 7:30 or else you don't get to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And that's almost 52 weeks out of the year where, you got to establish a network. So besides volunteering for the chamber, one of the things I do also is pretty much just promote the Marine Corps League, talking to Marines out there, recruiting, at the same time trying to get sponsors for our events.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the events that's coming up is our 250th birthday ball. It's I'm not trying to promote it because it's sold out already. It's grown from 500, and again, actually, thanks to Fred and Elizabeth, there are our official photographers for FredShot is the official photographer for the 250th birthday of the Marine Corps. And you've been doing now, this is your third year? Yeah,
yes.
They've been doing that. So they've been doing great. As I mentioned, and it's a gala. When we put it together, we have it at the Frisco PGA. And last year, we had one of the attendants say, this is kind of like the commandant of the Marine Corps ball, where there's elegance, precision, and everything else. And this year, we have 700 seats compared to a regular 500 because it's the 250th birthday of the Marine Corps. So going back, try to recruit first sponsors for that, try to promote it. As I mentioned, not promoting anymore. We're sold out. So those are the few things. But besides that, one of the things that we always do is just get together with a few Marines. We talk about our service. We talk about as far as what we're looking forward to, usually with Toys for Tots, helping out during the Toys for Tots season.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And so the Marine Corps League, you work parallel to things like, what's the thing Gus Kabarkas does? Combined Arms, Hope for the Warriors.
So there you have other veteran service organizations would be the VFW, American Legion.
Mm-hmm.
So we're kind of like that group. With the VFW, they have it all over. Each city has a VFW post or American Legion post. So with us, we make up as far as on the county-wide side. Not necessarily county, because in Fort Worth, there's a couple of Marine Corps leagues in there. But for us, we cover most of Collin County, if not some of our members are outside of Collin County. But with Gus, correct, we coordinate with Gus Kabarkas in regards to any veterans that are not Marines that need assistance. We'll defer the veteran to him so he can provide some resources. And same thing, if there's a Marine that we can't find assistance on, we'll coordinate with Gus also to help the Marine out. But sometimes there's a few of us that do if a Marine's in need, we still have to vet the Marine. We have to see what's going on. And sometimes I end up doing that just because I have a lot of time to assist and investigate what's going on. Because most of the time, some Marines will ask for assistance as far as financial. We'll take a look at it. It's more just budgeting. We really can't assist you if you cannot budget or you cannot adult. As most civilians will say, it's hard to be an adult. Well, yes, you have to budget your expenses. Yes, we'll assist you, but it looks like you're working. You're not in a dire need except for you just overspent, and that's it. And even then, we'll take a look at their assessment, and probably if light's going to be turned off, we'll cover those bills to that point. So most of the time, it's in either dire situation. Well, our officers will get together, I'll do the investigation, I'll do my recommendation, and give them, this is the situation. It's a family, like one of the ladies that we helped out. She's in disability, and disability pretty much has not gone in. She's late on her rent. She needed food. So I myself sometimes will go out there and just provide those assistance and pay the creditors and or buy the food itself, and then go back in the league and just said, this is what's needed. This is what's going on. And yeah, I do think that this is a valid reason for us to move forward and assist that Marine. Yeah.
So you're not just out there handing out money like candy.
Correct.
Or assistance like candy.
Correct. We do look at the same thing. If everyone asks for funds, we start giving away. We'll run out of funds to assist, and so most of the time we do look at it case by case basis. Another gentleman, same thing. He got kicked out of his house, and he's living in a hotel. With that, he's transitioning to another home, but the hotel itself, he had his family over there. Same thing. I came out, talked to the Marine, saw the situation and what's going on. Looks like he just needed 1 month's worth of rent. We ended up paying for 2 months worth of hotel for him, which we paid the hotel up front. So we'll cover the hotel. Looks like you have assistance coming in maybe in 2 to 3 months, but this is what we could cover for you. So with that, it's most of the time people are drowning, and we just gave him, a life vest and for them to float. And then from there, they pretty much still have to swim back to the shore and get their feet up and running again.
Mm-hmm. Now, when it comes to, so you mentioned a good example of, adulting and being able to create and manage a budget. Do you have people within the Marine Corps League that actually handle this, or do you outsource that to experts in the community?
We don't. We actually coordinate with Gus to see if they have counselors for that. To a point that sometimes we will have some Marines assist them with financial budgeting, to a point of as simple as putting together a spreadsheet. With that, we've had a few Marines come up and say, okay, this is how you budget. This is how you put your spreadsheets together. This is what's coming in. This is your bill. Look like you need to put in some overtime to cover your bills. That's it.
It's like, why don't you just have some, leatherneck gunny come in and, run basically, a budget boot camp, and
correct.
Call people maggots and tell them, that,
sometimes, everyone's a civilian now. So you really cannot hurt their feeling to the point that you want to yell at them and be like, why can't you get this straight as far as budgeting? But obviously the person is stressed to a point that, we don't want to add on more to their stress.
Sure.
That this is what we can assist you with. And at the end of the day, it's mostly financial, that they just need a little hand. And that's what we try to do, is some help for them. And then we try to assist as far as, and that's why we do a lot of I do a lot of networking to find out some resources for some of these Marines. The same thing. We had a Marine, and this is difficult for this person because he had a felony. And so it is hard to rent an apartment if you have a felon record. Right. And so with that, we didn't know where to turn for a resource for that. So I actually called 2 to 3 people, and I did find, and what's great is he was able to find housing. But that's one thing that I spoke with. Nathan is one of the members of the Marine Corps League. So sometimes we'll text back and forth, and I said, we actually don't have this resource for this. And again, it's a rare thing that someone would have a felon looking for a house, because most of the time they would have a family to go back to. Unfortunately, this one, parents have passed away, and he's just by himself. So with that, I said, let me find out, let me assist and make some calls. And so that's what I did. And I did find out, there are some resources for them, but it is more outside of Collin County. It's in Dallas. And so with that, he would have to go to Dallas and apply for himself. And that's what the information I just passed along. But before I could do that, great story is that he found a place, but at least we were able to say, okay, if and when something like this comes up, now we know that there's a resource for it. So I do a lot of networking just to find out, what are the strengths of the person or the company. And same thing. Most of the time, you guys, you and Elizabeth have a full resource of network. That's why when I introduced the Marines, as far as the active duty Marines, I introduced Elizabeth. That Elizabeth has a full of resources in regards to community. This is a great person to network with. So most of the time when someone wants to network with me, I'll put them to people that have access to the community. And same thing, vice versa. Most of the time someone will say, oh, someone's looking for this. Oh, okay, I know who actually could do that. So I'll apply that resource that I know and I pass it along.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. And of course, you mentioned the big one, the Toys for Tots. Yeah. Do you have stats on how many toys you collected last year?
I don't, but I could probably look that up. But I know, I believe
how many boxes.
That's in the. And what's great is, so right now is the first day of fall, September 2nd, and Toy for Tots warehouse is open now, and we are actually
taking. There's a warehouse.
There's a warehouse in Fairview, and we are taking the request for boxes. So if you want to get a head start and get your boxes, we can give you the Toys for Tots collecting boxes and start collecting toys 3 months And again, that's actually 4 months, 3 months ahead of the holiday. And as I tell people, right, I'm Filipino, you're Filipino. If you Google Christmas decoration, there's a YouTube that you will see that in the Philippines, they start decorating Christmas in September. Because I know that my birthday is on the 24th. Usually, they start pulling out the Christmas tree the week of my birthday. And they start putting it up that around my birthday. I was like, oh, the Christmas tree is up. That's what I got used to growing up in the Philippines. Like September, towards the end of September, Christmas tree is going up.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, I think it just falls in line with everything else because I swear it was June that I walked into Lowe's or Home Depot and I swear I saw Christmas decorations and I was like, that's way too soon. And then I'm seeing all the ads for, pumpkin spice latte, this and that. And I'm like, it's already pumpkin spice season. I mean, admittedly, we did have rain here in the North Texas area over the Labor Day weekend. So it is cooler outside, but it is not pumpkin spice latte, anything weather. We're still deep in summer.
Correct. I think it's supposed to warm up this week. Not Texas heat warm, but it's still going to be in the mid 80s, I believe, if not low 90s by this week.
Yeah. So we'll leave those notes how to get in contact with the Marine Corps League so that for people with brick and mortar establishments, they can request the box for that. And is it possible at any time for them to have like a couple Marines show up and encourage the passersby to give to the box?
We can. So we do have access. So some of our veterans can still put their dress blues, and we have to go by our uniform code that they have to be presentable. So most of the time that when we ask our veterans to put on and for those of you guys not familiar with the dress blues, it's the Marine Corps blues uniform. And I'm sure once you say dress blues, a lot of people are familiar with that term as far as what it looks like.
Yeah, known for its sharpness, not for its movability.
Correct. It does have a high neck area there. If you look up you search the history of the Marine Corps, and that is for to prevent the swords from striking the neck of the Marines. But to give you some stats, I pulled it up for Collin County. We last year we distributed 90,330 toys and supported 27,619 children in Collin County.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And then you do have a meeting. You said once a month?
Correct. So we meet once a month at Black Gold Harley Davidson here in Allen. It's every third Tuesday of each month. And so and our December meeting is usually held at Toys for Tots warehouse because during that time, that's when we volunteer to help put together toys and not distribute, but just sort the toys and collect the ones that's coming in. But as far as the Marine Corps League meeting itself, we meet at every third Tuesday, which for this month is going to be on September 16th.
Okay. So this episode is going out probably about 3 weeks from now. So, so just remember the third Tuesday of every month, Black Gold Harley Davidson right there off of 121 and almost like Stacy.
Right by where the new Costco is.
That's right. That's right. If you see Costco, look a little bit north of there to the Harley Davidson dealership. And to participate in any of those things, just have to be a
it's if you guys want, one of the great things is actually we have groups that go in there, or especially during the holidays when the National Honor Society or the Junior National Honor Society is looking for volunteer hours. That's a great way for you. And all they're doing is just sorting toys at the warehouse. Pretty much that's what we're asking to do. Most of the time we're doing the collecting, we're dropping off the toys, and they're sorting it out there.
Now, does the Marine Corps League ever partner with some of the larger corporate entities in the area?
We have one example is with Toyota. Toyota fills up about 2 of their Tundras with toys, and it's overflowing because the bikes, they're not going to put it over there. They have
Sure.
bikes all out in display. Besides that, we've partnered with other corporation within Collin County as far as promoting Toys for Tots and collecting Toys for Tots.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So in our listening audience, if you're part of a larger organization, and I'm thinking like, Emerson or Baylor Scott and White
correct.
level.
Andrews Distribution Brewery have participated in the past to a point that they sponsored one of the concerts that we did at the Plano West, Legacy West concerts over there. That was sponsored by Andrews Distributing. So besides collecting, that's one thing what we do also is fundraising. And what we do with those funds is actually buy more toys.
Excellent. And you also are probably able to help, throughout the regular year to support, those Marines who, just need, as like I said, a life preserver. But I love your analogy that you'll throw them a life preserver, but it's their responsibility to swim back.
Right. Yeah. And if they need a lifeguard to assist them, we'll assist them, but to a point that, you're pretty much an adult. Yes, bad things happen. There's some things that you didn't foresee that occurred, but sometimes people need some assistance, and that's where we come in and we just try to help them out, And our mission is helping our Marines, veterans, and their families. If we can't help them out, we'll find the resource for it. So most of the time, I will, and that's why I do a lot of networking, I will find the resource and pass that along to that individual. But they still have to make that move and seek that help, but they still have to make that move and make those contacts, because we're not going to provide, we're not going to disclose their information. Okay, this is what you need to do. They have some funds to assist you. And that's what most of the time when I'm networking and they say, we have funds for assistance. And I'll go back, okay, this company has some funds for assistance. Who needs help? What are they looking for? Because all they have to do is fill out this application and they'll be able to get those funds. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. So his name is Ramil. He's with the Collin County Marine Corps League, or the Marine Corps League of Collin County, right?
Yep, Collin County Marine Corps League.
It's like, I'm just trying to get that right. It's interchangeable.
It
so if you are if you're a leatherneck, a devil dog, a jarhead, and you are civically minded, if you are looking for a place to continue to make a difference, you made a difference when you stood on the footprints, right?
Yellow footprints.
That's right. You made a difference when you decided to step on those yellow footprints. You made a difference, every time you put on the uniform, and you still have the opportunity to make a difference. And so, that's our call to the Marine Corps faithful out there, those who signed and served. Definitely contact Ramil and see how you can get involved, because we know that, there's always a greater need than what we know of. Half of the battle is actually connecting with the people who have the need. And so, definitely check the show notes for that. And with that, we want to say thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the McKinney Podcast. We'll see you next time, where James will be back in the studio. Have a great one.
Appreciate it.